Good afternoon. Welcome to today's formal celebration as we publicly invest Chief Justice Eric Rosen with the duties of acting as our state's Chief Justice. As a senior member of the court, I have the privilege of being able to welcome you and to begin this ceremony supporting Chief Justice Rosen in his new role as Chief Justice. As we begin that celebration, let us focus on one of the traditions of our state's anthem. Please stand if you are able as Maria and the Mexican performs Home on the Range. Where the deer play. It's in the of the skin, reaching out in the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. We're set on the side of the skin, reaching wide and the skies are not cloudy all day. How often at night, with the heavens so bright and the light of the glimmering stars, I sit there amazed and ask as I gaze if the glory exceeds that of us. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. We sailed on this earth of the sky, reaching wide, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Oh, give me a lamp with a bright diamond sand flows leisurely down the stream, and the graceful white swan comes gliding along like a maiden in a heavenly dream. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. We sat on this hill, are they still reaching wide, and the skies are not cloudy all day, and the skies are not cloudy all day, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Please be seated. Thank you for that beautiful rendition of our state's song. At this time, I would now like to welcome Dr. Libby Rosen, the spouse of our new Chief Justice, to the lectern. Dr. Rosen.
When Eric was sworn in as justice in 2005, our four sons, Paul, Jacob, Mark, and Tom, each spoke of their father and his qualities that supported his appointment. Today is my turn to share a few words about this man with whom I have had the privilege to share my life with since we were high school sweethearts. After the stillbirth of our daughter Laura in 1980, we were going through a transformation that occurs after tragedy. And Eric said to me, "We now know that life is short, and I have always dreamed of becoming a lawyer and serving others with those skills, perhaps even becoming a judge someday." I said, go for it. And he did. So after 5 years of public service as a school social worker, he started law school part-time, continuing to work, helping raise our sons, and even adding a third during this process. Mark's birth caused him to miss one of Jim Kincannon civil procedure classes. But his aptitude for this journey began long, long ago, starting with his understanding of plain meaning, literal interpretation of words. He was 3, and his father saw Eric enjoying an apple and said, "Can I have a bite?" Eric paused for a second, went over and bit his father.
True.
Then, as a sibling, he would often try a unique twist to the scales of justice. His brother Don, who is with us today, would voice concern about the way that the candy bar was divided or the soda poured into the glass. Eric, as the older brother, would say, "Don't worry, I'll sip it and make it even." When you think of dedication, understand that this man at age 62 decided to run a marathon, 26 miles for 62 years. He was inspired by our Paraguayan daughter Jimena, who lived with us and attended school at Washburn in the Paraguay and Kansas partnership. They ran that first marathon together. Some of you may note that Eric has a tendency to intertwine musical lyrics into his work and life. I will attempt to do the same in reference to my pride in his place in the Gibson and Nelson 2021 book, looking at 17 years of decisions, titled Judging Inequality in State Supreme Courts and the Inequality Crisis. They placed Kansas in the top 7 states in support of greater equality, and Eric as the top justice nationally in decisions favoring greater equality in legal, economic, and social realms. Perhaps the words of Bob Dylan fit best here. Equality, I speak that word as if a wedding vow, but I was so much older then. I am younger than that now. In all of our years, he has been the calm, fair, and reasoned partner, as long as it didn't concern technology. We have balanced each other's scales. Recently, we started a daily tradition of playing the New York Times Wordle game, and I've noted the difference in our demeanors. As a nurse, I get started and get finished faster, good qualities when moments count, but often using more lines to get to the solution. Eric, on the other hand, will still be on line 2, being very deliberative, considering all angles before hitting the enter button. He takes much longer to do it, but he gets it right in fewer tries. We were lucky that the Menninger Clinic drew both of our families to Kansas, and in the months following their move, his family from the East Coast, mine from the West Coast, meeting in the heartland. We were both born in 1953 in Topeka, making us lifelong Kansans. Mental health awareness with the Menninger Clinic was a part of our shared experiences. Our families blended, and we were truly blessed to celebrate holidays together and be, as your father would say, La Familia. How proud all 4 of our parents would be of the accomplishments that you have achieved. I will end with the last words your father spoke. He said to our inquiry, what advice would you like us to share with your great-grandchildren? His response reflects what you, Eric, have already done with your life. He said, find what you love to do and do it with all your heart. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't hold a candle quite to that length of time of knowing Chief Justice Rosen or of having worked with him, but I have served with him as a judicial colleague for over 30 years. Since his appointment to the district court bench in Shawnee County, where I already sat. Over that time, I, first as district court judges and then later as judges on this court. I have had a deep admiration for Eric, and that has grown daily. From the outset, as Dr. Rosen has so aptly pointed out to us, he guarded the principles of fair and equal justice for all. Litigants in his courtroom, and when we started, that was like right next door to me. We shared the common area and all but shared courtrooms. And then later, we were next door neighbors, and then we've remained that way for so long. So I could see that those litigants knew that their economic, ethnic, social, religious, or political backgrounds were irrelevant. They were treated with dignity and respect, always with the assurance that their disputes would be resolved fairly and impartially. I also came to respect someone as a public servant that he is, someone who prepares diligently and carries out his duties with great care. I didn't know about Wordle, but now I can make that link, certainly. When we later served together on this court, I saw new ways in which he inspires all of us, not only in his clearly written opinions, but through his leadership. Some of that leadership has focused on attorney discipline and attorney well-being, championing efforts that have elevated the profession and laid a foundation for its future. We are deeply grateful for his contributions, both personal and professional, to us, our profession, court system, and our community. He has done much to build public trust in a system of fair and impartial justice and to protect the rule of law. Over the past few months, Chief Justice Rosen was called to become acting Chief Justice with no warning of, okay, here's the day. This is the day that you get called to step in. Despite that lack of notice, he has done an outstanding job, and I thank him deeply for that service. We now have the opportunity to see how Chief Justice Rosen's passion for justice and dedication for the betterment of our profession, our state, and humanity will continue to strengthen the Kansas justice system in his role as Chief Justice. As I wish him every success in his role as Chief Justice, I invite him to join me in front of the bench to publicly swear or affirm his oath of office as Chief Justice.
I gotta do my left name. Here we go.
Do you, Eric S. Rosen, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas and faithfully discharge the duties of the Chief Justice of the Kansas Supreme Court, so help you God?
I do.
We have what perhaps could best be called an emerging tradition. I say that because Chief Justice Lawton started this tradition in 2019 when I became Chief Justice by gifting to me not to me, gifting to the role of the Office of Chief Justice of the Kansas Supreme Court a beautiful gavel that's enclosed in this box with its sounding board. It's hard for you to see this, but it's a beautiful wood crafted by retired Chief Judge Jim Fleetwood, who was the time had just retired as Chief Judge of the 18th Judicial District. For those of you who aren't like us and can just recite off all the judicial districts in their counties, that is Sedgwick County. Judge Fleetwood, according to Chief Justice Ness, had treasured some wood for over 20 years. And when Chief Justice Ness asked if he'd be willing to craft this, he decided that leaving a legacy for the Chief Justice was a worthy use of the beautiful wood that he used in crafting this. This gavel, and I'll leave it to Justice Rosen to open,
Well, I will do that.
has sat in our conference room for use since it was gifted to me.
Thank you.
And hopefully it is a tradition we continue to carry on. Chief Justice Ness, thank you so much for starting that. And I'm not sure he intended for this to also be a part of the tradition, but he left in my office this slogan, which maybe he or Barbara would like to read to us. I don't know.
Es ist meine Schuld.
But thank you. Now, I can read the reverse side, which says, everything is my fault now. So much like the buck stops here, I have kept this in my line of sight throughout the last 5 years. And I'm very, very pleased to be able to have that. At this point, I now turn over Chief Justice.
She did make the mistake of leaving something cuter in front of me. I'll hand it to you, Chief Justice Hoover. You know, I don't know what to do
Oh,
with that.
this is easy. We close it.
Yeah. Situated here. Well, thank you, Chief, for those incredibly kind and generous words. They're words I'll cherish for the rest of not only my professional career, but for my life. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to talk kind of directly to you right now, because in preparation for today, I don't know if it was a mistake or a good thing, because you set the bar so high. I watched the video of your Chief Justice swearing in which you referred to a scale of justice that sits in our court's conference room as a symbol of justice. You noted that the scale that you brought in was not in equilibrium. One side weighted down the many blessings you had received throughout your life, and the other side was raised high, representing the work ahead to restore the balance. Let me say this as plainly as I can. That scale has been in equilibrium well before today. Yeah, we've all experienced it's through your steady leadership, your integrity, your unwavering commitment to fairness. You brought that balance not only to that symbol, but to this court and to the public that we serve. Our challenge ahead then is not to correct an imbalance you left behind, but preserve the balance you worked so diligently to achieve. We do so by honoring the principles that you modeled: thoughtful deliberation, respect for differing views, and a deep understanding that justice is not static, but something we must continually tend to with humility and care. As I assume this role, I do so with profound gratitude for your service and with confidence that comes from following a Chief Justice who strengthened this court and left it on such solid ground. The scale you brought with you no longer reminds us of work unfinished, but of responsibility shared, and of the high standard you set for all of us who now carry that work forward. Again, Chief, thank you. Also, as we accept that shared responsibility and look forward ahead, it is fitting to pause to acknowledge the voices. Where are those voices that grounded us at the very beginning of the ceremony? We are deeply grateful to Maria the Mexican for their beautiful and moving rendition of our state song, Home on the Range. Maria and Tess Cuevas and their family have been close to our family since their births. Both were in daycare. They were in grade school, middle school, and high school with our younger sons. Birthdays, graduations, wedding celebrations have all been a part of our collective family's experiences. Their performance reminds us that justice, like music, is rooted in tradition and enriched by interpretation. Those familiar words, where the deer and the antelope play, we hear the story of open land, shared space, and belonging. In blending musical traditions, Maria the Mexican reminds us that this is truly a home on the range for all, across backgrounds, languages, and experiences. Through their artistry, those words were enriched by cultural expression that reflects the full breadth of our state, reminding us that harmony is strongest when many voices are brought together with purpose and respect. Their performance reminds us that this is truly a home shaped by many voices, traditions, and histories. Just as the scale of justice finds its balance through care and intention, our state finds its strength in harmony of many voices. We thank you for setting that tone so beautifully today and reminding us that the work of justice is ultimately about ensuring that everyone could call this place home. In recognizing moments like this do not belong to one individual alone, they are made meaningful by the presence of those who serve, support, and walk alongside us. I am honored, truly honored, by so many distinguished guests, including our governor, Governor Kelly. Thank you for being here, and her staff, members of the legislature, Chief Judge Sarah Warner, and members of the Court of Appeals. Thank you for being here. And I see district court judges and magistrate judges, community leaders from across the state. Your presence reflects the shared commitment among all branches of government and our communities to the rule of law and the principles that sustain our democracy. I am equally grateful to the family and friends who are with us today, and they're just kind of all right there. You just look at it, they're there. Some have known me since childhood, and I'm looking at some of them. And some have traveled from both coasts to be here. All of you represent relationships that sustain us over time and across miles, reminding us that no professional path is walked alone. You have offered encouragement in moments of challenge, perspective during moments of uncertainty, and joy during moments of success. Today belongs to you as much as it does to me. Another kind of small group out here I want to recognize are my former colleagues. I see Chief Justice Nuss, Justice Carol Beyer, Justice Nancy Moritz, and Justice Johnson, Justice Lee Johnson. Working alongside you has been both a privilege and a continued source of learning. Your dedication, your professionalism, and collegiality strengthen this court and our broader legal community. I am so grateful for your support and for the trust you place in me as I step into this role. Thank you all very much. I would also like to pause to acknowledge educators who shaped my path long before I ever took an oath of office. From my earliest teachers who instilled curiosity and imposed discipline, or at least they tried to impose discipline, to the professors who challenged me to think critically and write carefully, I am deeply indebted to those who believed in the power of learning as a public good. I am especially grateful to my law school professors and mentors who taught me not only substance of the law, but the responsibility that comes with it, the obligation to reason carefully, to listen fully, and to remember that behind every case, are people whose lives will be affected by our decisions. Whatever judgment and perspective I bring to this role, in no small measure, is the product of their patience, their rigor, and commitment to education in the service of justice. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize those who are not with us today, particularly those who have passed since my last swearing in 20 years ago. Time grants us experience, but it also brings loss. I carry with me memories of my friends, my colleagues, and mentors whose guidance continues to inform me in my work. Most especially, I honor my parents, Erwin and Betty Rosen. Though they are no longer here to witness this moment, their values, their sacrifices, and unconditional love and belief in me remain a constant presence in my life. They taught me integrity, perseverance, and respect for others, lessons that have guided me in every chapter of my career. I hope in the work that I do, I continue to reflect the principles they lived by and the faith that they showed in me. Finally, and most importantly, I acknowledge the person who has been the heart of my life, Libby Rosen. To my wife of 52 years, you are the love, you are the foundation and the strength behind every step I take in this journey. Your patience, your wisdom, unwavering support has sustained me in every chapter, and nothing I have achieved would have been possible without you. I am also profoundly grateful to our children and grandchildren, all over here, like I said. You remind me daily of what truly matters and the responsibilities we bear to leave behind a world in a better place than we find it. You are my greatest source of pride, joy, perspective, and my clearest reminder of why the work we do, not just for today, matters and for generations to come. With that, together with loved ones, public servants, and colleagues, you all form the foundation that makes me taking on this responsibility both possible and meaningful. Take a drink, I'm getting a little dry mouth here. With that rock solid support, I am mindful that the work of this court does not occur in isolation. It exists within a broader social, cultural, and historical context, one that calls upon us to understand who we are as a people and who we aspire to be. I would like to now acknowledge an aspect of my identity that has shaped my experience both as a Kansan and a public servant. And it's not something I usually talk about in my public capacity. I was born and raised Jewish in Kansas, a member of a faith community that makes up less than 1% of our population. To grow up as a member of that less than 1%, I learned early the value of mutual respect for all. But I also understood and understand at times what it means to be excluded. My experience has not always been welcoming. There have been moments when being Jewish set me apart in ways that were isolating and limiting. Along that path, I have been mindful of the history I carry, as I was informed by our former judicial administrator, Howard Schwartz. Upon my appointment in 1993, he told me that I was the first of my faith to be appointed district court judge in Kansas. And then later in 2005, he once again informed me that I was the first Jewish justice of the Supreme Court. and now the first to serve as Chief Justice. These milestones are not about distinction for their own sake, but about what they reflect. The enduring promise, while we still have many hurdles to clear and barriers to break, we have opportunities for participation and achievement in Kansas are open to all. They also serve as a reminder that equal justice under the law is not self-executing. It requires vigilance, it requires humility, and a continued commitment to ensuring that our institutions truly belong to everyone they serve. Our state, proudly, has always been shaped by diversity of culture, of experience, and of perspective. Those differences are not a challenge to the rule of law, they are one of its greatest strengths. It is the lived reality of people who come before our courts seeking fairness and justice. It is complemented by a broader richness of viewpoints and backgrounds that strengthens public trust and deepens our understanding of the law's impact. The rule of law endures not because it is rigid, but because it is principled, capable of being applied fairly and consistently to all, while remaining responsive to the realities of the people that it serves. Over the last 20 years, I have learned that the role of this course is both modest and profound. We do not make public policy, nor do we chase public approval. The oath I swore to today commands our duty is to interpret and apply the law faithfully, to safeguard constitutional privileges and principles, and ensuring that justice is administered without fear or favor. In doing so, we must always be mindful that the decisions we render affect real lives and shape public trust in our institutions. I did a little research for this, and it's really interesting because history reminds us of what I just said, that our court has not shied away from that responsibility. One example is that long before Brown versus Board of Education became the law of the land, this court confronted injustice of segregation and inequality in our public schools, laying out important groundwork for this recognition that separate is not always equal. As early as 1881, I'll repeat that, in 1881, in Board of Education versus Tinnon, here's what we said, quote, "If the board has the power because of race to establish separate schools for children of African descent, then the board has the power to establish separate schools for persons of Irish descent or German descent. And if it has the power because of color to establish separate schools for Black children, then it has the power to establish separate schools for red-headed children and blondes. We do not think that the board has any such power." With many cases to follow, all following the doctrine of separate but equal, violative of both constitutional and existing Kansas law in an era when such a position was not in accordance with social norms. In doing a little more research, I found a case involving a school I worked in. It is Graham v. Board of Education. It involves Boswell Junior High, a 1941 case, and this is 35 years after the fact when I worked there. And here's what we said there. This court has reached the conclusion that the position of the defendants is untenable. It will not do to say to one American citizen, you may not have the benefit of an improved method of education because of your race, when at the same time, other citizens in the same school districts are being accorded those benefits. Those words and the numerous decisions dealing with school segregation are just a sampling of the many challenging issues that come before this court and stand as a testament to the courage of jurists who understood that fidelity to the Constitution is what is required. That legacy calls on us today. It challenges us to honor the rule of law, respect our differences, and to ensure the promise of justice is real and accessible for every person who calls this state home. Now, carrying forward that legacy and fulfilling this responsibility is never the work of one person alone. It really depends above all on the people with whom one serves, and I'm looking at my colleagues right now. I want to express my deepest gratitude to my current colleagues who are by my side. Your professionalism, your wisdom, and collegiality over the last 3 months when I was expected to called upon to serve as acting Chief Justice, you offered unwavering support, sound counsel, and steady partnership. Your confidence and cooperation ensured the work of this court continued with integrity, with continuity, and respect for our shared mission. Thank you. I am equally grateful, and I see a lot of you out there. There's a lot that goes unrecognized, to all of the court's staff, from Office of Judicial Administration, the clerk's office, central research, IT, security, our maintenance crew, and to my executive team. Your dedication, your institutional knowledge, and quiet excellence often goes unseen by the public, but they are indispensable in the administration of justice. During a period of time and uncertainty, you brought stability, competence, and grace. This court functions as it does because of your commitment to service. Thank you all for that. I'm nearing the end, and I want to just say that validation, I was planning this, I had it all thought out in my head, and it was validated, what I was planning to say in my closing remarks. It happened a few weeks ago when I had the pleasure of giving a tour of the Judicial Center, and I think I see some of you out there, to a family of the faculty member that Libby works with, the Comoris. Wendo is one of their daughters, an aspiring lawyer, remarked on the Kansas flag, that flag right there that adorns this courtroom, and mentioned that ad aspera per aspera was the theme of her commencement speech from high school, and asked if we'd like to hear it. Now, being the literal person that Libby referred to earlier, I was thinking she must have recorded it on her phone and thought of listening to the audio might be challenging. So I politely declined. Now, our tours always include our tourees the opportunity to sit in chairs on the bench. When Wendo, sitting right here in this chair, interesting that you picked this chair, sat on the bench, I mentioned that maybe now would be a good time to hear her speech, thinking that that would assuage my guilt for my earlier declination to hear it. And I was thinking, as she pulled out her phone, I was thinking that that would work because she could hold her phone up to the microphone and we could hear it clearly. She pulled out her phone, and it was not a recording, but a script. And what followed was as eloquent a presentation that has ever been spoken from this chair. She intertwined her memorable 2011 kindergarten class Kansas Day celebration, complete with sunflower seeds, box turtles, salamanders, and learning our state motto, with not knowing how those words would come to life 10 years later as her class confronted COVID and the challenges of isolation and remote learning. Her eloquence belied her age. Her message to her classmates of hope and optimism, realizing the goals and dreams they had achieved while overcoming difficulties, captured the essence of our motto perfectly. It left me inspired, giving me hope and confidence for the future. I will conclude now with gratitude and resolve. The work of the judiciary is demanding, and it is often done in moments of uncertainty and challenge. Yet, as Wendo so beautifully captured, our state's mottos remind us of the path forward. Ad aspera per aspera, to the stars through difficulties. It is a statement of perseverance, of aspiration, and a reminder that challenges are not roadblocks, but they are pathways. Together, guided by principles, strengthened by mutual respect, and enriched by the many traditions that define our state, we will continue forward through difficulties towards the stars. Thank you very much for your confidence, your presence, and your continued commitment to justice. Thank you all. Now, as many of you know, as Libby mentioned, my love of music, no gathering like this is complete without an encore. And I haven't shared what they're going to sing, but Maria and I talked over last weekend, and this is what we chose.
Still keep you always, may your wishes all come true. May you always forever. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every one. And may you stay May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surround you. May you always be courageous. Stand up proud and be strong. May you see May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. Lift your foundation with winds and change. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. And may you stay forever. May you stay
Well, you're all invited to a reception in the Hall of Justice, but I just must say how beautiful and how appreciative I am, Maria and Tess and Garrett. Thank you so much, so much. You're all invited downstairs to the Hall of Justice for a reception. And with that, I think this is the second time this has been used, And like you mentioned at yours, I've never done this. With that, court is adjourned.